Just watch and don't do it.
And just pretend like you did. And
right. Just like the box, right?
there you go. All right, well, sit however is comfortable. Let yourself be mindful. If you need to stretch your legs out, do, and just enjoy starting to sit up nice and tall and feel that sense of reaching up through the top of your head. And let your hands come to a place where you're comfortable so that you don't feel like you're rounding forward into your chest here, but instead you feel nice and open across your chest. And watch your breath coming in and going out through your nose. Feel those breaths coming into the belly. So you don't want to force your breath, but just starting to be aware of feeling the breath all the way in and all the way out is calming. And then on your next exhale, let your arms come on out beside you and see if you can feel your shoulders soften down and really let yourself just feel your feet, whatever part of your feet are touching the floor, feel them in the floor. And then we'll inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands right down together in front of our hearts. And then we'll reverse and inhale the hands right on up through the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms on back out and down. And now let's inhale our arms up and let yourself move through your hands, your wrists, circling through your hands in one direction. And then reversing and stopping and going the other, really feeling your fingers. You can kind of wiggle around a little bit if that feels good. And then just come back to flexing your hands, feel your fingertips facing up, and bend your elbows, bring your hands in towards your shoulders. And as you exhale, press out into the hands. Feel, if you can, feel your feet pressing into the floor as well. And then again, inhale, bring the hands in. Let yourself feel the hands coming towards your shoulders. And when you exhale, press out like you're pushing two walls away from you. And then one more time, inhaling, bringing your hands in. And as you exhale, letting yourself press out. And now from here, tilt your head to the right. Let your right ear come towards your right shoulder. And let your left arm lower just a little bit. And then come back up to the top. Arm comes back up, head comes back up. We're going to tilt the other way. And again, let that arm that's away from, your right arm be the one that goes lower. So you're tilting away from that lower arm. And then come on back up to the top here. Release your arms on down beside you. Shake them out just a little bit. And take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, let's twist to our right. So bring yourself around. Left hand can come onto your right knee if that feels good, or you can have the hand to the midline. But let that back arm be really easy. So if you're in your chair, you can just release it to hang down the back of your chair. And if you're on the floor, just lightly touch the floor so you're not dependent on that back hand. Good. One more inhale. And as you exhale, come on back around through center, all the way into the other direction. So letting yourself, again, find your hands, your arms, where they can be easily. Feel that twist in the middle of the back. Feel your sitting bones drawing down. Good. And one more inhale. And on your exhale, use your belly to bring you back around into center again. Good. And stretch your legs out for a second, whether you're in your chair or on the floor, and move through your feet and your ankles a little bit, however you want to. You can flex and point, you can circle, you can do whatever feels good. And then if you guys were cross-legged on the floor, switch the cross of your legs when you come back to sitting cross-legged. And in our chairs, we're going to bring our feet right back down again. And now from here, start to think a bit about your navel, right? And we're going to start to think of circling our navel around. Small little circles at first. So you got to use your abdominal muscles here. And you've got to use like the side abdominal muscles when you draw your navel to the side, and then navel draws towards your spine as it heads on forward again. So circling in the same direction. Let yourself just really focus as best you can on the belly and the low back. And when you're ready to go the other direction with the circles, just reverse. So it's really trying to isolate those muscles around the navel. Easier said than done, really. But let yourself just play a little bit with that. It does wake up the belly and the back. Wakes up the hips too. Wakes up the low back. Good. And then once you finish off kind of where you want to stop, go ahead and come on back upright. And from here, let's come into a seated forward bend. On the floor, if you'd rather stretch your legs out as you come forward, you can, or you can stay cross-legged. And be mindful. Let yourself release to where you're comfortable. You know, you can stay up, supporting yourself, staying up high, or you can go farther forward if you want. Let yourself be really aware of how your hips and your back feel. Just be with your breath, accepting those nice, easy breaths all the way in and out. And go through your jaw. Good. One more breath. And we're going to make our way on back upright to sitting from there. Take your time. Let your hands come on out beside you again here. And let's inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. Let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. And then we'll reverse. Inhaling the hands right on up through the midline. On the exhale, open the arms on back out and down. And now let's inhale the right arm forward and up overhead if we can. Now reach way up with your fingertips, but feel your sitting bone into the chair or the floor. And then come over a little bit, not far. Think about still reaching up more than you're coming over, actually. So you have more space there in the right side of the body. Good. And then rising back up. Use your belly to come back up. Lower that arm on down. And we'll bring the left arm up overhead here now. And again, think of reaching up through the fingertips. Feel your sitting bone drawing down. So you're really long on that left side. And if you just come a tiny little bit, you're still actually reaching up more than you're thinking about going over. Breathing into the left ribs here. So imagine the breath expanding the space between the ribs. Good. And then we'll come on back up to the top. Lower that arm on down. And let's bring our hands forward of our chest, clasp them, and then just press out and forward into the heels of your hands here now. And feel your fingers, your wrists, and then bring the hands back in towards the chest and see if you can push them out again, but let them be a little bit higher. And then see if you can bring them back in towards your chest again. This time, see if you can go a little bit higher. Right now, if your shoulders are going, yeah, no, I'm not going any higher, don't do it. Come back in again if you can. If you can go up again, a little bit higher. And then this last time, if you can actually go all the way to pressing up into the heels of your hands overhead too. But if not, don't do it. So now you're feeling your sitting bones reaching down. You're pressing into the heels of your hands and you feel equal through the sides of your body. And then just release your arms. Let them float down. Let your arms just float on down beside you here. And then just lift your shoulders up a little bit and let them release down. And try not to make it feel like you're like, really tensing your shoulders. But it's a really gentle lift and then just gently lower. So you're not forcing them down. They just gently lift up and then they gently come back down. Good. Shake out a little bit here. We're going to come around towards our hands and knees. So if you don't want to be on your knees, do not be. And if you want to be on your forearms, feel free to do that. If you feel like you'd like to have your hands on blanket to take some of that out of your wrist to do that. Sometimes even having your hands on blocks feels better or different for the hands and wrists. So be mindful, get yourself set there, wag your tail a little bit, move your head around, just do what feels good. And then go ahead and let yourself flow up into your cat pose and feel your navel drawing towards your spine. And when you're ready to move back through into your cow or to your neutral spine, just let yourself flow on through. And let your breath carry you. When you're ready to continuously move through these poses and move through your back, do. If you like to stay in your cat or your cow for a little bit without moving, that's fine. Just let it feel very natural, waking up the spine. Appreciating how you're built so that you can move like this through your spine. And then finishing off and coming back to a more neutral spine. And let's come into our lunges, stepping our left foot forward and our right foot back. And you know how high you want to be with your hands is totally up to you. You can use a chair seat, you can use blocks, you can use the floor. Just be mindful, though, of your hands. And, if your wrists bother you, again, you can adjust. You can be on your fist. You can hold the edge of the seat of your chair so that you don't have that wrist crease. But just really give the back of the leg time to open up here. Good. And then we're going to switch legs. So coming to the other side, however feels good for you to do that. Coming into the length of the lunge that feels good as well. And letting yourself focus on your legs here first. Focus on the back of that left leg. Engage your belly a little bit. Think of your shoulders just releasing down away from your ears. Good, and we're going to switch legs again. So once you come into the lunge this time, if you do want to lift up a little bit, you can. You can bring yourself up to hand or forearm on your thigh, or not at all, or both hands up if you want. Yeah, we're going to switch legs again. So take your time. Feel your feet in the floor. Again, if it feels pretty good, once you're wanting to lift up to bring a hand or forearm up, you can, or both. Nice, and then we'll come on back down with our hands so we can step forward and get our feet right underneath us. Hips distance apart and parallel. Be mindful, if you can, see if you can lift all your toes up right here and look at your own feet, and that might mean you want to put your elbows above your knees or any support you need, but just see if you can feel those toes lifted up, feel the four corners of the feet into the floor, and then just softly let the toes release back down. And come on into where you're comfortable to be. So if you need support, use it. If you are able to let your head hang, do, so that you can feel that release for your neck. Letting the weight of the head help you find more space in your spine. Feeling your sitting bones over your heels. And then watching your breaths all the way in and all the way out. And as we let our hands come up to our hips here now, we're going to bend our knees, press into our feet, and rise up. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up over the head. And on our exhale, let our hands come right down together in front of our hearts. So adjusting however you need to get into your mountain pose. If you need to look at your feet, do. If you want to get a little wider or less wide. And once you do get there, lift your toes up again if you can. And try to really get that sense of not rolling to the outside or the insides of both feet or one foot, really. And then let the toes release back down. As your gaze comes forward, just for a second, put your hands on your hips. And let yourself just feel, you can bring your fingers around here to touch these two bones, your hip pointer bones right there, right? Your thumbs just kind of release around to the back of the body. And then from here, just be aware, because you can really feel when your hands are like this what your pelvis is doing. Like if you tuck your tailbone forward and do it and feel what it feels like. And it's really exaggerated, right? But obviously it comes all the way up into your upper back. And if you do the opposite, send your tailbone way back and let your hip pointer bones come forward, then you come into kind of this sway back feeling. So once you come into now, just focusing on the tailbone dropping down, and your hip pointer bones here are right here, they're not coming forward, they're not dropping back because you're tucking, and then there you are, aligned in your pelvis. It's very, very, once you get there, it feels so easy and so right. And then release your arms on down beside you. Float your arms a little breath away from you. Turn your palms forward. Spread your fingers out a little bit. Reach down through the fingertips. Feel like the shoulders are just dropping away from your ears. And on your next exhale, just bend your elbows and let your hands softly come to meet in front of your heart. And then let your hands start to separate just your pointer fingers, your middle fingers, and your ring fingers. But you're still kind of attached at your thumbs and your pinkies. And it's like you've made a little bowl with your hands. So you have this little feeling of just, or almost like the opening of a flower, right? You can feel that connection in your hands. And then go ahead and reconnect your hands. And now keep your fingertips and tips of your thumbs together, but release your fingers away from each other and your palms too, like you made kind of almost like a little tent with your hands there. And then go ahead and let your fingers come back together in your palms, coming into your mountain pose, hands gently touching. Let's keep our hands together and inhale them right on up through the midline of the body. And on the exhale, bend the knees, fold from the hips as you come forward into your standing forward bend. And on your next inhale, help your back find that flat tabletop back, wherever you want your hands to be. And we'll step our right foot back then to come into lunge. Drawing our shoulders down, feeling the whole body in your lunge. Inhale. Exhaling into downward facing dog pose. So reaching back into your down dog here now. And be mindful, walk if you want. Let yourself turn your head if it feels good to move your head a little bit. Just looking to one side and then the other. And then come on back to your full dog, and on the next inhale, we'll come out towards a plank. And what sort of a plank you come to is up to you. It can be half plank, knees down, forearm plank, so you're on your forearms and out of your hands. If you want to bend your elbows, you can do push-ups if you like. If you can keep those elbows coming in towards the ribs, it doesn't take much bending to really get into the arms. And then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog pose. Feeling that reach back equally through your sitting bones, so you feel equally long through the sides of your body. Elbows hugging in a little bit. And we'll bring our right foot forward from here to come into lunge. So however you need to get there. You need to put a knee or knees down if you're on the floor, do. And then again, feel your whole body. Find that sense of really the whole body in the lunge, including the back of your head coming into line with your spine. And then we'll step forward and come into standing forward bend, feet hips distance apart and parallel. So be mindful. If you're fine to really release, to hold your own elbows, and that feels like the greatest relief for you, go for it. If support feels better, use support. And then follow those breaths in and out through your nose. And see if you can let your breaths even out in length. Your inhales and exhales even out in length. And then we'll bend our knees and bring our hands to our hips and rise on up to standing. And inhale our arms out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Let's inhale our hands right up through the midline. Once they get up there, separate your hands and then bend your elbows and see if your hands can come, maybe to behind your head or your neck or maybe to your upper back. So you're thinking about letting the elbows reach up as much as you can. And that's all different for all of us. So be okay with where you are there. One more breath. And then unfold the arms on out beside you. Bring the hands behind you and interlace your fingers. Clasp your hands. Take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, bend your knees and come forward. Stop at a flat back about parallel to the floor. So you're looking straight down. Your head's in line with your spine. And then release your hands. Bring your hands to your heart. You're coming into prayer hands here. And now start to look to your right and twist a little bit. Now if you're low enough, you can put your left elbow on your right knee. If you're not, that's fine. You can still twist without putting the elbow to the knee. And then come back into center. And we'll just turn the other way. So again, if your elbow's there and it feels good to put it on your knee to support yourself, do. And then we'll come on back into center. One more breath. And on your exhale, come on into your forward bend, however you need to get there. And let your next inhale help you find that flat back again. And let's step our left foot back and come into lunge. Draw your shoulders down. Nice inhale. And exhale into your downward facing dog pose. So making your way into your down dog again. And, do what feels good. Walk if you need. Let yourself feel those elbows softly hugging in so you feel really good in your shoulders. And then we'll come on out towards that plank again. And again, it is optional how you do this. Forearm plank's fine. Knees down, fine. Let yourself be where it feels good to you. Really finding that core strength in your plank pose. And then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog. And from here, we'll bring our left foot forward to come into lunge. And then we'll come on back into standing forward bend. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. Right to your breaths. Let go through your face. Let your face feel light. Easy. And then we'll bring our hands on back up to our hips, bend our knees and rise on up. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And let's unfold our arms on down beside us and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, bend the knees as you come forward into standing forward bend. And on your next inhale, find that flat long back. And we're going to walk into a downward facing dog pose. So you put your hands the height you like to use, whether it's blocks or floor or chair. And then on your next inhale, come on out towards your plank. It is optional here to do a back bend. Not necessary. You can stay in plank. You can do push-ups if you'd rather. You can come through for any back bend of choice that you want. And then we'll make our way back again into downward facing dog pose. Again, be mindful, walk, wag your tail, wiggle around a little bit if you want to. And we are going to do that one more time. So the next inhale will bring us out to that plank. And again, it is totally optional to add any kind of back bend or any way to come into a back bend that you want. And then when you're ready, we'll make our way back into downward facing dog pose again. Good. And this time, let's bring our left foot forward to come into lunge. And then let's come back into standing forward bend again. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. Be mindful. Use what support you need, or let yourself go on to hold your elbows if that feels good. Or, some of you may want to put your hands up on your back or behind your legs. But just breathe. Really, just let the breath be the most important thing now. That's all you're doing is watching your breath in and out. Enjoying the ribs expanding as you inhale. Feeling that sense of the top of the head getting closer to the ground when you exhale. Good, and then we'll let ourselves use our arms like wings. So bend your knees. Let the arms come out beside you as you rise straight up to standing. Arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, let your hands come right down. And as they come down, let the top of the head get higher. Or feel like it's getting higher, right? So from here, come back again to, with your hands, separating your pointer, middle, and ring fingers. So you have that little flower opening feeling there in the front of your chest. Then softly bring the hands back together and let the tips of the fingers and thumbs stay together as you separate your palms and your fingers. So you have more of that little tent-like feeling there in your hands. And then just softly reconnect. Really letting your hands be very softly together. Finding your mountain pose. We'll go ahead and unfold our arms on down beside us. Good. And move around however you need. If you need to walk around a little bit, do. I'm going to flip my chair around and make sure you have your blocks handy here at the front of your mat. And we're going to step our right foot back and come into Warrior Two. So getting our right foot just about parallel to the back edge of the mat. Now if you want to send your heel back further, that's fine. Line up your heels and bend into that left knee there. Take your time, really look at it, and see if you can, as you bend the knee and you see how it's going over that foot, straighten it again. See how it looks when you straighten it again, and then bend it again. And do that a few times. It's almost like you're trying to get your knee into this groove where it goes, you know, more healthy for the knee to go there than for the knee to pop into the center, right, of the mat. So really letting yourself get into that groove. And then go ahead and bend the knee and stay there and kind of get your stance really equal between your feet. Start to float your arms on up and out. And let your palms face down. Flex your hands for a second and do what we did earlier. Bring your hands in towards your shoulders. And then press out into the heels of the hands. Let yourself really feel like you're pressing back as equally into the right as you are into the left, forward. And then go ahead and turn your fingertips down for a second. So you release your hands down. And then go ahead and reach out now with the palms facing down, out through the fingertips. Now think of that back arm being just as important as the front arm. Feel your feet equal in the floor. Feel your whole body in space here. And then we're going to turn that left palm up and we're going to inhale, reach up towards the sky. Now you can slide that right hand down the right leg a little if you want to go back a little further, supporting yourself. One more breath. And on the exhale, we'll come into that side angle, whether you either put your left hand or forearm onto your chair. That's up to you. And then you can decide whether you want to add your right arm up into line with that right side of the body. Totally not necessary to do that. You know, it's fine to leave your hand down on your hip. If you can, think about your head being in line with your spine. So you don't let your head drop down, but instead it stays like it's part of your spine. Good, we're going to come on back to Warrior Two. Press those feet away from each other as you come. Get you right back into that core strength. And now we're going to straighten that left knee out, and we're coming into triangle. So bringing your hands down, and that left hand may want to go on your leg. It might want to go on your thigh, your shin. I like to use the chair myself. I like to use either the back of the chair or the seat of the chair, or you can use a block. The block can be in front of or behind your left leg. And then you can add that right arm straight up from your shoulder if you choose to. So your torso is still elongated out over that front leg. But now as your legs are straight, you're engaging your thighs up towards your hips. Good. One more breath here. And then we'll bend that left knee. We're going to come back to Warrior Two. So pressing those feet away from each other as we come. And then we're going to let our hands come down. And we're going to turn our feet more so that we're coming for a wide-legged forward bend. But before you come, get your feet set pretty much where you feel good. And then start to bring yourself forward and let your elbows come above your knees. So your knees are bent and you're letting your elbows rest there and you're elongating through your spine in this squat. So just be mindful, let it feel good. Now if this is okay for you, see if you can reach your right shoulder like it's reaching over, across, down towards your left foot. And then come back to center and do the same thing on the other side. So you're just reaching, kind of letting yourself come into that easy little twist. And come back to center and do the first side again, right shoulder towards the left, and then come back to center and do the other side again, left towards the right. And then come back into center, and you take your time. If you want to grab some blocks right here to support yourself in your pose, you can. You can stack them up. You can, of course, put your hands on the floor if you'd rather. If you need to bend your knees one at a time when you get there to adjust a little more. Again, just let your body find its way into the pose. Because once you stay in this pose, obviously you are engaged from the waist down, but you want to let yourself feel as released as possible in your upper body. And let yourself really come to your breaths fully and deeply. See if you can feel those breaths expanding the ribs in all directions when you inhale. And let the exhale bring you as much into a release through your whole upper body as possible. Letting go, feeling the weight of your head, release through your face. And if it helps you to count when you inhale and reach that same count when you exhale, so you're evening out your inhales and exhales a bit, do. One more breath. Now, in preparation of coming to standing, you know you do what you need to do. So, if you need to get your feet closer together, if you're dizzy a little bit when you stand up, you know, stay wide as long as you need to. Grab something to hold on to if you need to. And then walk your feet together, move around a little bit. Take your time because we're going to go the other side. So, letting yourself come into that warrior two this time with your left foot back and lining your heels up. Getting that length of stance. You know, it can be your feet 2 feet apart or 3 feet or 4 feet apart. It doesn't matter. What matters is that alignment of that front knee. So when you look at it, you bend that knee and you straighten it and you bend it and you straighten it. You're trying to keep it, you know, pretty much in line with the center of your foot so that it feels really like it gets into that groove. The next time that you bend it, let yourself stay there and start to float your arms on up and out. And flex your hands and bend your elbows and bring your hands in towards your shoulders. And then just press out into the heels of the hands. Now when you press into the heels of the hands, press your feet away from each other too. So do that again, bringing your hands in towards your shoulders. And when you press out into the heels of the hands, press your feet away from each other too. Good. And now let your fingertips face down so you release your wrists that way. Yeah. And then just let yourself come into palms facing down, letting the fingertips reach as far away from the midline as you can, feeling as open as you can across your chest, your upper back, and the strength in the core of the body here. We're going to turn our right palm up, left hand comes down, and we're going to inhale, reach up. Now if you slide that left hand down more, you might want to reach back a little further in your reverse warrior. And on your exhale, come on into that side angle where either your right hand or forearm comes to your chair or your thigh. And you can decide about adding the left arm up into line or not. If your shoulder tells you to keep your hand down, keep your hand down. You still have that length through the spine. Remember the thing about thinking of your head being a part of your spine? So sometimes the tendency is to want to drop our heads down or to lift the head up more. Think about it being a part of your spine. Good. And then we're going to come on back into warrior two. Press those feet away from each other. And now let's straighten the front knee out. We're going to bring the right hand down for triangle. So again, you can use your chair. You can, if you want, put a block underneath your right hand and let yourself come down onto the block. You can, of course, use your leg. And then as you draw that left shoulder up, whether you like to add that top arm up is totally up to you again in your shoulder. So it's a different place for the arm than when you're in side angle. Sometimes this one's easier for people because it's straight up from your shoulder. So be mindful. You can play with where you look. You can play with trying to look up a little bit. If your neck needs releasing, you can look down towards your right foot. Enjoy that beautiful stretch through the body. We're going to bend the right knee and come on back into Warrior Two. And then we're going to bring our hands down. We're going to turn our feet again more parallel. And we're going to come on forward. So if you know you like your blocks right away, go ahead and grab your blocks. And take your time, adjust your stance. And if bending one knee at a time kind of helps you get a little more adjusted up into your hips do. Good. And then come on back into center. And let's come over to the right. Whether we walk our blocks a little over to the right or walk over towards your right foot, once you get there, bring your right hand up to your hip there. You can roll your shoulder up if you want to, or you don't have to. You can just bring the right hand up and stay there. You don't have to roll the shoulder up into that twist. And then we'll come on back down, and we're going to walk back through center. And again, over towards the left, and only as far as you want to go. You can be up on the block. You can be down more towards your foot. Left hand comes on up, maybe to the hip and be fine there. Or maybe putting the palm on your sacrum and rolling that shoulder up if that feels good. And then we'll come on back, down with the hand, back into center. And again, take your time, adjust how you need to set yourself up, So if you know that you feel perfectly comfortable to bring your hands between your feet, to let your head hang and let yourself come into the pose here, that's fine. It's just not for everybody's back. So if you prefer to use support and keep your back longer, you can use blocks under your hands. You can use your elbows above your knees. Just be mindful. And then just really watch your breath. Again, all the way in and all the way out. Nice. One more breath. And now be easy when you start to think of rising up. Again, if you need to adjust your feet before you come up, by all means do it. And be mindful when you come on up, bring your feet on together, move around a little bit if you need to. Right? Move through your feet if you need. Okay, this next one, us with the chairs are the lucky ones if you ask me, but everybody have their blocks forward, okay? And we're going to try to do a little bit of that Warrior One variation where the heel is off the floor. So it is like a high lunge. So if you have your chair here and you step your right foot back and you kind of get that width that feels good, it's a heck of a lot easier to bring your hands to your heart, okay? If you start out down here, putting your hands down to your blocks in your lunge and then lift up, that's a lot harder. So, you kind of adjust. If you don't have a chair and you don't want to put your hands on the blocks, just step your foot back and see if you can get to a place where you can come into that heel being off the mat and you're okay. And it's a hard balancing pose. Sometimes bringing your arms up overhead helps because it makes you feel that lift in the front of your body and you're into that pose a little easier. Not necessarily though, you can keep your hands to your heart. Really find a place to focus. That helps a lot. And then bring your hands down. We're going to come into lunge. So you might want to use your blocks. You might want to use your chair. Come on into your lunge and we're going to add a little twist, bringing our left hand to our left hip and roll that shoulder up. So your palm is there on your sacrum. You're fairly level in your hips here. And then if you want to stretch your left arm up, you can. If not, if your shoulder says no way, just keep your hand down. You still got that twist in the middle of your back. And then let yourself release down. See if you can straighten the front leg out a little bit here now. Let that back heel just release down towards the ground, just so you get a nice stretch in the calf mainly there. Good. And then from here, we're going to bend the front knee. All we're going to do is switch to bring our right foot forward, left foot back. We're going to come up for, again, that warrior one, that high lunge, that warrior one variation. So if you have a chair there, like I said, it's a lot easier to start up from high and then bring your hands up. But if you don't want to use your blocks at all, you can just kind of step your foot back. And again, hands can be at your heart, or if you want to bring your arms overhead, you can. So focusing on a spot that really helps you stay in that balance. One more breath. And then we're going to bring our hands on down. We're going to come into lunge again. So this time you might want to kind of adjust the length of your stance. That's fine. And then when we're getting ready to add that twist, the right hand just comes to the hip, and you can roll that shoulder up. You can keep your hand right down there on your low back, your sacrum there, or you can stretch it up if you want to. But just be easy. Let yourself feel okay in your shoulders. Find that twist in the middle of the back, and think about the length in your spine. Good, and then bring your hand on back down. We're going to straighten the front knee out again. And you know, just when you do that, let that left heel just go directly behind your foot. Doesn't need to come to the ground, obviously. You're just letting yourself get a nice, easy stretch there through the backs of both legs. Good. And then we're going to go ahead and step forward. Go ahead and bend that front knee. Get your feet underneath you, hips distance apart and parallel. And bringing your hands on up to your hips. Let's press into our feet equally and rise on up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, as our hands come down, come on into your mountain pose here. Really feel that sense of the space around you. Because it really is like you're being held up by the air. It's not hard work to come into mountain, especially once you've gotten so much energy flowing through your body. Once you get your alignment in your pelvis, you feel that stacking up that the body just wants to do. It becomes very easy. You can watch your breath. You might be able to feel your heartbeat. You know, you might be able to let yourself feel your breath settling down. And then we'll unfold our arms on down beside us and shake out a little, move around a little bit. So this is a good day to let's keep our mats. Let's don't move our mats around, but let's bring our both blocks and find a wall space. We're going to do some half moon where you can like have your whole back at the wall, okay? So, yeah, like Joe, you guys can be here, or Joe, you can be at this wall, and Karen can be over there. Jeannie, you got room there, and you three are there. And yeah, Pat, you can either use that back wall or there by Janet, whatever works. So, if you move, are you okay with the fan there? I think you can move the fan out of the way. Okay. So let's all let's do our left shoulder towards the wall. And bring our hand, you can bring both hands down on the block's highest height, okay? You're on your left foot. And you're going to lift your right foot up in the air. Now, this might be enough. You might want to stay in Warrior 3 with your toes facing down. Or you may decide you want to go ahead and bring yourself up with your right hand to your hip. Open up that right hip and come into half moon. And if you want to use the wall behind you there to stretch your arm up, you can do that as well. Or not, right? So you're supported by the wall. It's awesome to be supported by the wall. Feels really good. It keeps you lined up. Your foot can't get too far behind you. If you're going, okay, I am not doing this anymore, you come down whenever you need to. And when you're ready, take your time and come into the other side. So, again, if you know half moon, not a good idea for your hip, you can stand on your right foot, lift your left leg up, and stay in Warrior 3 right here. And you've got the wall there, which makes it feel really kind of supporting even for a Warrior 3. Kind of feels good, right? And then, of course, if you do want to open up and bring your left hand to your left hip, you can let yourself come on into letting the wall support you. And if you want to stretch your left arm up, you can. You can always keep your left hand down on your hip. Just enjoy. You're really, really building strength in the hips and flexibility. We're going to release to come back up. So again, take your time to do that. Turn your back to the wall. Let your feet just come out a little bit. And bend your knees a bit here, right? So you can just really use the wall to support your back. And if you turn your palms forward and press the backs of your hands into the wall there, it feels really good. And you're just letting your back naturally align. Now, some of you might want to slide down lower and lower. Go for it, right? I mean, if you feel like, oh, well, I want to walk my feet out, and I want to come down more. I want to get my thighs really working where they're parallel to the floor. You can. Not necessary.
What do we do with our head?
Head is different for every person. Like, if you can release the back of your head into the wall without feeling like you're doing this, lifting your chin up, or, forcing it like this. Otherwise, just lengthen up through the top of the head so that it feels easy, like it's up there on top of the spine, and you're not forcing anything. So it depends on how your shoulders are built, whether your head will come back to the wall, right? Right, whether it feels in line. So for you, it probably should be a little off. And then walk on back in with your feet. Good, shake it out a little bit. And we're going to come back to our mats. And we're going to come onto our bellies on the floor. So, take your time. Let yourself just release on down. And make a little pillow with your hands. Rest your forehead there. On your hands, bend your knees and circle your feet, or do whatever feels good with your feet up there. Whatever you want to do. Your own little back and forth movement if you want. Windshield wiper blades. Just let your feet release there. And then try this one. If it hurts, you don't do it. But cross your ankles and kind of interlock your feet a little bit. And then let your feet come down towards the ground. And only go as far as feels good. You're not trying to force your, anything at all. Just let yourself release down to where you feel a release in your outer hips a little bit. And then come back up and uncross and recross. So you're have the other ankle on top or in front, however you say that. And then, again, see if you can just slowly let the feet come down a little. You're interlocked there. It's okay if your hips rise up a little bit. You're not trying to push your belly into the floor or anything. And then rise the feet on back up and uncross. We're going to bring our legs on down long. And let's come onto our forearms and clasp our hands together here. And then come on into bending your knees and lifting up into a half forearm plank. Pressing now, if you can, into the outside edges of your hands. If your pinky finger's out, you can feel that really pressing into the outside edges of the hands. And then see if you can imagine pulling yourself now. And do it. Pull yourself towards the front of your mat. And feel the belly really engaging here now. Let yourself feel your sitting bones reaching down towards behind your knees. One more breath there. And then let yourself come on down. And from here, release your arms down alongside you. Turn your palms down towards the ground. And on your next inhale, float your head and your chest just a little bit up. So not a lot, right? Just you're low. You're just barely trying to use your back body there to lift up a little. And then bring your head and chest back down. And now see if on your next inhale you can lift your legs up. Just your legs. And that's harder, actually. See if you can let your feet float up. Maybe even your thighs float up off the ground. And then go ahead and release back down there. Good. And now from here, bring yourself back into a Sphinx Pose. So you have your elbows under your shoulders. Turn your palms down towards the ground. Spread your fingers nice and wide. And bring your gaze there to between your hands. I mean, a little bit forward if that feels better. But just let yourself enjoy coming into Sphinx, into this back bend here. Good. And then come on down. Bring your head down onto your hands like a stack, like a pillow. And from here, bend your right knee. And let yourself flex your foot. And feel that heel being drawn in towards your buttocks. Right? So there's your quad. Now, if you lift your head up off your hands, there is also a little bit of a back bend. So that's a half bow. You know, mind you, you don't have to reach back and do the holding your foot. You can if you want. So if you feel good to kind of support yourself with your left forearm and reach your right hand back to get hold of your foot, you can. Not necessary to do that, to be in a half bow. So if you push the foot into your hand, it often rises you up even higher. It opens across the right side of your chest. But this also gets your shoulders, so think about it. It's not just all about a leg, is it? And then we're going to release back down. Bring your foot back down and let your head rest on your hands. And then bend your left knee. Flex your left foot. Pull the heel in towards the buttocks. And then let your head float barely off your hands. So there you are right there, lifting yourself up with your back. But you're stretching out your quad. And again, this reaching back with your left hand to get the foot, right? Totally optional. I mean, you can kind of pull the heel in without resistance just to give the quad a nice stretch. But eventually, if you push that foot into your hand, it kind of rises you up even higher. And it opens across the left side of your chest, and it gets into your shoulder. Not for everybody, I know that, so be really mindful. And then release to come on back down with everything. Bring your arms down alongside your body. And on your next inhale, float everything you can up. Let yourself come on up into a Locust Pose. Feel really easy there. See if you can let your arms now come out beside you like a T position. You're still floating. And then see if they can float up a little higher like a V, a wide open V position overhead, which is the hardest one. And then release to come down. We're going to shift back towards Child's Pose to give our backs a break. So come back. You know how far you shift in towards Child's Pose with your hips is totally up to you. You can stay forward and still get a huge release in your hips and your back with your hips up in the air, right? So it depends on your knees. Let yourself breathe into your low back. Good. One more breath here. Now we're going to add a little bit of release for the shoulders. So from here, if you can, whether you're forward or back with your hips, thread the needle with your left arm and kind of let yourself come down onto the left side of your head with that arm underneath and threaded through. And you can keep your right hand on the floor, kind of right in front of your face. You can stretch the arm out forward so it's coming towards the front of your mat if you want to do that, if that feels better. But just be mindful, let the shoulder release there. Good. And now bring the right hand by your face so you can press yourself up so you can go through with the other arm. So you come down again onto the right side of your head, the shoulders onto the ground. You can keep your left hand by your face. If you like to reach it towards the front of your mat, you can. And we're all different in our shoulders. So just be really mindful and let it feel like a release, right? Not like you're pushing into something, but instead you're letting everything go there. Good. One more breath. And then as the left hand comes back by your face, press yourself up. And we're going to come on around to sitting. So as you come on around, stretch your legs on out in front of you. And be mindful, if you need a blanket to sit on, by all means grab one. Let yourself sit on a blanket. We're going to do just a real traditional twist here. So I'm going to mirror from here on. You're going to keep your left leg long and kind of bring it a little to the midline. And then just cross your right foot over to the outside of your leg somewhere. It can be below your knee or it can be above your knee. And you're going to lengthen up and let your shoulders really melt down. So it's this idea of using your hands to help you draw upward instead of the tendency, of course, to relax a little bit there. So once you find that length in your spine, it's so much easier to twist, bringing your right hand behind you. Whether you keep your hand on your knee here, or you bring yourself, remember I'm mirroring, so twist to your right. And you can either hug the knee in, like with your elbow crooked around it, if you've got the knee close to you. You can use your hand, or you can bring your arm across. I know some of you, twists for you are really easy to bring your arm across. So just be mindful, let it feel good, nice. And once you've got that length, which you all had, the twist becomes so easy. Just enjoy, where you want to look with your gaze, totally up to you, to the wall there, or maybe even thinking of looking further behind yourself if it feels good. Adding a little bit more, one more breath. And then we're going to slowly unwind. Use your belly to start to bring you back. And then we're just going to switch. So bringing that right leg long, left foot coming over. Again, it can be above or below your knee just so you can sit up tall. So you can hold on to your knee or your shin, really lengthen up. Inhale. And as you exhale, it's just, it just feels like you can float your way. You've got so much space in your spine. Coming around into that twist is easy. So again, hand can stay on your knee. If you like to wrap the crook of your elbow into the knee because it's right there. Or if your foot's lower, sometimes it just feels great to bring the arm across. Even if the foot's not lower, I know a lot of you can do that too. So again, lengthen upward, feel your sitting bones in the ground. Again, try to let yourself be easy about where you look. If it feels just perfectly natural to keep turning a little bit to look more behind yourself, do, but don't force it. Good. One more breath. And then as you come back, use your belly to bring you on back. Stretch your legs on out in front of you. Bring your hands behind you. Now you can be on fingertips if that feels better, to draw your chest forward like that. Or you can lean back onto the flat hands and bring your chest forward. And be mindful of your own neck. Staying forward where you look, looking up just a little bit. Now if anybody wants to come into lifting hips up with bent knees for that 4-footed table, you got to adjust your hands to be under your shoulders for that one. And whether you turn them back or forward is up to you. So if you do want to lift up, it's really a huge difference for a lot of us how our hands are turned. So it's fine to adjust there and kind of try one way and go, well, that feels like not the best, and try the other way, or say neither way works for me, I'm not doing this. So just take your time. Good, don't do it. If it hurts, don't do it. We're going to come on down. Take care of your own wrists, right? So if you like to circle, or I like to squeeze my wrist, that's what really feels good to me. And we're going to come on down to our backs on the floor. So take your time, come down, let yourself, once you come down, bring your right knee into your chest, and then extend your left leg down long on the floor. Let it feel good. Flex through both your feet. Oh, feel your back on the floor. If you need to kind of wiggle around a little bit, do. Good, and then we'll just switch legs. So let the left knee come on in and extend your right leg down long and flex through both the feet. Feel that left leg coming into your hands so you find that natural curve in your low back. So your low back's not collapsed into the floor. Good, we're going to switch again. Now this time, hold behind your right thigh and send your right foot up in the air like you're putting a footprint on the ceiling. And kind of use your hands, if you can, to pull your thigh in towards like the outer rib cage on that right side. Right now, with this left leg long, you might be feeling a nice stretch in the front of that left hip. Now, if you like to stretch this leg long because you really want to, it just feels good to extend the leg long overhead, by all means do it. And some of you might want to do this part. You might want to hold on to your back of your right leg somewhere. Put your left hand on top of your left hip, right there where your leg connects to your body. And on your next exhale, lift your head up and slide your left hand down your thigh a little bit. You just look towards your left foot there. Don't do it if it bothers your neck. And then you can release and come back down. Bend that right knee again. And we're going to bring the left knee in. Let your knees go a little bit side to side there. Release the back. And then keep your left knee in and stretch your right leg down long on the floor. And hold behind your left thigh. And send your left foot up. And the knee is really bent here. And you can kind of pull the thigh in towards you, right? So it's like really like a release in your hip, and you can feel this nice stretch too in the front of your right hip. And then, again, if you can straighten into that leg a little bit, don't force it. Just if it feels good. Sometimes it just feels like, it feels great to feel the back of that leg opening up a little more. And now, again, if you can hold on somewhere on that left leg, you can reach for your foot if you want. Those of you who can get your foot or your toes. Right hand on the top of the right leg there, and then lift your head up and slide your hand down and look towards your right foot there. And don't do it if it hurts your neck or feels uncomfortable in any way. And then release to come down and bend that knee back into the chest. And bring your right knee on in too. Separate your knees a little bit. Send your feet up for a little happy baby pose. And it doesn't matter whether you want to roll a little bit in this pose or just let your back and hips release where you can. So take your time. Let yourself release there. Be mindful of letting the back and the hips go. And then come on back into center and let the feet come onto the floor and stretch your arms overhead now. Let your arms just be, and they can be a wide V if that feels better for your shoulders. Let your palms face up. And then from there, separate your feet a little wider and just start to let the knees easily come from one side to the other. And this is your own timing. You may decide you want to stay on one side. You may decide you just like to continuously roll from one side to the other, of the top of the hips there, low back. Or maybe your body is saying, I really need to do this or this or this or this. There can be any number of things that might sound good to you to do right now. So take your time. If you need to lift your feet back up in the air, do. If you need to do a bridge pose or a plow pose, or really just let your body take over so it can do what it needs. If you need another form of a little twist, sometimes it feels good to end so you can be more comfortable for Shavasana. Or sometimes another hip opener, like bringing your soles of your feet towards each other for Baddha Konasana. But take your time. It may not be anything at all you want to do right now except get ready for Shavasana, and that is fine too. But you know that being comfortable is the most important thing. Now, once I get all these lights, I'm going to bring anything that might help you be able to relax deeper. So, a little bit of support, and I know we all get into habits. I also know that sometimes you think that you're comfortable and you lie there for a little bit and you go, oh. What a little bit. Yep, you got it. And I want you to keep putting your head and then you just, yeah, and then that you can adjust Yeah, your legs is on the floor. So I'm starting to, yeah, this again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you can keep your legs bent, or you can lengthen your legs long. And you can decide if any of that feels good, or you can put blocks into your knees and do your bypass soles and feet together and support those blocks. Coming, don't give up. Thank you. You're welcome. So take your time to, really pay attention. Do you, even normally you're comfortable, but now you're kind of not? Let me know. I mean, it can be anything. I could use a little blanket maybe somewhere to help. Support. Good. And just release now. Just let yourself enjoy feeling the ground underneath you. And letting yourself appreciate that contrast between the firmness of the floor and how your body starts to soften, which it will. And your breath starts to quiet. And that quieting breath can bring you into a quieter place. So if you can keep coming back to your breath, when your mind wanders off, no judgment, just softly keep refocusing to your breath. And give your body and your brain time to benefit from all you just did. Allowing yourself to completely and fully relax. deeper breaths start to refresh you, bringing more energy back to you so that when you do feel like physically moving again, you can let your fingers and your toes wiggle a little bit and gradually move into hands and feet, arms and legs, and you may want to let your head roll from side to side. Just come into moving the way that feels really natural to you and easy. You know you're welcome to stay on your back. You're welcome to roll to either your right or your left side. If you're comfortable to be on your side, you can come into a soft fetal position, maybe even using your arm as a pillow, especially if you don't have a blanket there. Just give yourself a little more time to adjust and to be supported by the ground. When you feel ready to rise up, you know when it feels like it's an okay time to start to get back upright again and get comfortable in how you're sitting so that you feel fine in your hips. And you can let yourself lengthen up, feeling really open across your chest as well. Letting your eyes be closed and coming back to watching your breath. Once you get your head up there again on top, the energy starts to come back into the body. And on your next exhale, let your hands come gently to meet there in front of your heart. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste.
Namaste.
Happy Thursday.